Food is a powerful force in our lives. It nourishes us, it sustains us, it brings us together, it exemplifies our cultures. It plays a key role in our lives, and yet we often do not question what it takes for the food we eat to get to us. How is it produced? And where? And by who? The paradigm of food production is shifting. The number of women involved in agriculture and in decision-making positions on farms and in agribusiness is increasing. A fact I feel should be celebrated, because with it comes a shift to smaller scale, more sustainable productions that are environment and community focused. So during the summer of 2021, to commemorate the hard work being done by women in agriculture, I selected 4 influential women in farming that have been a part of my life to interview. This is the female future of farming, and these are their stories.
My name's Emma Sanchi. I am apprenticing at Frith Farm in Scarborough, Maine, and I have been farming for 6 years. From a young age, my parents have always picked up produce from our local farmer, and so I was very aware of where my food was coming from, and that was just very much a part of my sister's and I's childhood, so that really stuck with me. And then I went to the University of Maine for college and didn't start with sustainable ag as my degree. I started as English, but decided that that wasn't the lifestyle I wanted for the rest of my life, and I switched to sustainable agriculture. So at Frith, this year, none of the apprentices returned, so we are a fully fresh crew, and we are all rotating through manager roles. So we all take turns managing wash pack, managing harvest, managing field production and irrigation, the seedling greenhouse, taking turns watering. So I'm getting a taste of every single aspect of the farm this season. I'm hoping to get all of the basic knowledge I need to start up my own farm business out of my apprenticeship this summer. I am really interested in the business side. That's where I have the least amount of experience, the least insight on creating a crop plan, making marketing plans, advertising, things like that, how to really get your business off the ground. Now, some of the steps I'm taking to get my farm business started are taking this apprenticeship. It was really important to me that it's education-based. Again, I am fairly confident in my abilities to grow food. I just need to know scale and the ways to set myself up for success financially as well. At Frith, the apprenticeship, we are involved in, on Wednesdays we break at lunch, we take lunch, and then the rest of the afternoon we don't work and we have education time. And that is led by the apprentices. We kind of direct where we want to be learning, what we want to be learning about. We go on farm tours to other farms in the areas. And Daniel will give us PowerPoints and share his knowledge and his farming history, successes and failures, which is all really helpful to, if you can avoid a mistake that someone else has made, it really puts you ahead. Once this apprenticeship is over, I will hopefully have secured land for me to start farming next season. And if not, I am trying to decide if I want to keep farming or find a job off farm where I could make a little more money and start saving up for a potential down payment or leases on farms in the future to start my business as soon as possible after that. Some challenges I'm facing currently are mostly related to land search. It's incredibly difficult to find land right now. Since COVID, the housing market has been kind of wonky, and everything in Maine anyway has been being sold for far over asking and what the property is worth. And I don't have that kind of cash because I'm a farmer. So not having, I feel like, equal opportunity at a property, I'm being priced out simply because I don't have the capital behind me. And I'm working with Maine Farm Link, which is through Maine Farmland Trust, a service that matches future farmers or prospective farmers with landowners or even older farmers that are aging out of their profession and looking to either pass on or sell their farm business to future farmers. So that's been helpful, but as far as like buying properties, my boyfriend and I have been looking casually for like a year and a half now, but since COVID, the market has really skyrocketed. My identity as a woman affects my everyday life as a farmer. Tools are all designed for a man's body. I'm 5'4", and a bed prep rake is far too big for me, and things like that. Nothing was really designed for a woman's build. So little things like that every day add up to things where you just feel like you don't fit in that mold. That system wasn't designed for you to be there. I also have come into situations where the women on the farm are kind of funneled into wash pack and harvest management, but not actually doing any of the tractor work, or not encouraged or allowed to do tractor work if that interest was voiced. I personally, though, have not been discriminated against. I don't feel like directly. I have been empowered and encouraged by so many of the people I've worked for and with, and that's very encouraging to me. And I really appreciate that, because I know that that's something that happens all too often, and I'm lucky to have nothing but positive experiences from coworkers. So that support alone is amazing. There are definitely assets being a woman farmer, I find. I find it incredibly empowering and encouraging, and I'm surrounded by very supportive women, and I love farming with women and men alike, but women, there's like a connection of like, we got this. It's just wonderful to have that power and support behind you. My philosophy as a farmer is to feed my community. That's really important to me. I think everyone should have access to organic, local, nutritious food. I don't think anything should exclude you from that financially or any other way. And also having a sustainable system for myself, for my family, my community, my body, my employee, potential future employees' bodies. You should be able to do this for a while. So managing that and setting myself up for a timeline of sustainability is really important, so I can do this for as long as I feel like doing it. What keeps me motivated on tough days is knowing what I'm doing is meaningful work. Honestly, our first CSA day this season was like 97 degrees, and it was hot and humid, and we were down 2 people because they had worked over the weekend and had the day off. And it was just the perfect storm of being incredibly hot and slightly shorthanded, but seeing all of the CSA members filter in and be so excited, seeing all of the food that they were getting to share with their family, and all the meals that would be cooked with that was like really warm and filling, made my heart full. My support system is my family. My boyfriend and his family are so helpful too. They live right here in Scarborough, so that's been really, really wonderful. My boyfriend Kyle and I are in this together, and it's really helpful to have his full support and encouragement, knowing that this will be a weird couple of years. Starting a farm business is not easy, and knowing that I can confide in him and share any like stress or anxiety or even great things, and we're like both so excited about it, which is wonderful. And like land prospects, like getting the email back from people or finding out that it's a bad deal is like, we share in that excitement and letdown. But it's wonderful to know that I can always tell him anything and he'll be just as supportive. My family is super encouraging. I know that maybe telling your parents that you want to be a farmer doesn't always go over well, but my parents are very excited and very, very supportive of it. So I am very lucky. I think my advice for any woman trying to start into the agricultural field would be to stick with it. It's hard and draining and exhausting, but it's so rewarding. It's the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. I have some of the best friends I've ever had through farming, and I'm just so in awe of the network and the community that you can build around food and agriculture, and I love it. There are like wonderful, glorious days where you're like picking peas for hours and just snacking and eating and just laughing with your coworkers, enjoying the sun, and it's just wonderful. There will also be days where it's mid-June, it's been raining all month, you've been wearing a wool sweater every day because it's freezing, and you're dressed head to toe in rain gear. somehow you're still soaked through, you can't feel your fingers, and it starts to hail, and it just sucks, and you're planting potatoes just crawling along, thinking there's no end to the end of this row because how have you not reached it yet? But then in 3 months when you go to harvest those potatoes and you're pulling them out of the ground, and it just makes it all worth it. And it's very full circle, fulfilling work, in my opinion. And I think that everyone should and deserves to experience the glory that is growing your own food and nourishing those around you, because it's incredibly important.
Hi, my name is Vania, Galicia. This is the Thread City Family Garden, and I'm the community farmer here. I actually first joined GrowWindham back in 2016 when I was around, I think, like 16 or 17 years old as a Windham Youth Corps member. And that's how I started to first learn how to grow food. Then throughout the years, I picked up a few farming jobs here and there. But then I came back last year here to GrowWindham after I had graduated college, and now I have the community farmer position. So I realized I wanted to grow food for my community more as a job or a career when I noticed that it has a really large impact of who you see as growing your food and also how they grow your food, especially because culture influences that a lot. So in a place where most places where you get your produce are ran by like predominantly white folks, it has a large impact when an actual folk who is a person of color is leading the initiatives, because you have more knowledge about what kind of food you actually use in different cultures, especially in your communities. And I realized that me simply being me, like who I am, has a large impact. Our community garden is located here at Lauder Park, where there is also a skate park, a small river, and other recreational uses that our community has. And I think that's pretty important because it's a place where our community members regularly visit. Our produce goes to a lot of different places. Right now it's mainly going to local Willimantic families who we identified during the pandemic who were in need of more food access. And those food boxes around right now are 20 to 25. It varies depending on when families want to stay in the program or drop out. But we do weekly food boxes throughout the peak season. When we have big varieties of anything like garlic, we'll sell it to a local food co-op, sometimes be a guest vendor at the farmer's market, or a lot of folks just come by and drop by the garden and say they would like something, so we sell it to them on the spot. So it's like by word of mouth or whenever we get a chance to go distribute it somewhere else. Most of our food is not sold right now though. Most of it we're donating or just giving away to local either charities or direct community members. So in general, I take care of all the crops here, so I make sure they get watered, that the soil is up to like standards that we need that so our crops can succeed. But I also am in charge of community outreach, especially with the Hispanic community, because there's always a language barrier there. I also help run the youth program, which is one of our key factors here because they're the ones who really help me maintain the garden. I can't do it all. It would be just too much for me. So teaching them how to harvest, cultivate, and just plant every day-to-day tasks like that is one of my big roles, as well as keeping track of like who comes by and goes out of the garden, because we want to make sure that those connections are solidified here in the community because it's really important to our success. When I'm growing food or when I'm choosing what to grow, I think about from the perspective of who's going to actually get the food. So from the moment I plant it, I want to make sure that it's actually a product that someone's going to be able to use, especially the community that we're serving here in Willimantic. And the way we're growing and taking care of it, I tell my youth all the time that we have to really treat our food carefully and be really nice to it, because we're giving that same treatment back to the folks who are receiving our food. And we don't want to give them any products that are not useful for them, or example, if we're harvesting, that are like all beat up or tattered. They're youth, so sometimes they still forget to be so gentle with the plants, but I think once I remind them like this is connected to a person, like someone else is going to get this, they remember, okay, I'm not just like growing or harvesting food, but this is going back to a community member, maybe my neighbor, even their own family. So they bring back themselves to that point and take care better of the crops. For me personally, as a farmer or grower, I think the main way I'm engaging with my community is breaking the language and communication barrier and like the food justice movement. I think a lot of people, when they think of an equitable food system, they think a lot about organizing and campaigning and maybe changing laws or bringing it into institutions, but a big part of it is also just communicating that there are resources around our communities to those folks who don't usually get those communications. When there's pamphlets or when there's events, they're always usually ran by someone who is English speaking or it's monolingual, and there's not those cultural moments taken into account. And so that's a lot of the big barrier that I think folks tend to miss. And for me, I think that's my biggest role here at the garden, that I have that mindset because I grew up in Willimantic, because I am a first-generation immigrant here, and because I am a younger folk, and I understand how all those factors really play a big role in an equitable food justice system. My support system is mainly my community and my family. They're the ones I go to most of the time when I need any guidance on how to grow things or how to fix something. They might not know like all the science of it, but they grew up growing food, so they know best how to deal with certain things, even if it's unfamiliar. I also have a few youth who are actually really knowledgeable in agriculture because either they've grown up with farmers in their families themselves or go to local schools that teach agriculture, and they're teaching me all the time new things, or if they spot something and they're like, oh, I learned that and we need to address that, or there's something we could do to make this better. They help me out a lot because even though I am older and maybe I have a little bit more experience, I don't have all the knowledge in the world, and any farmer will tell you that there's always something that they don't know. My family has supported me mostly through their own agriculture knowledge. Most of my family have been in the agriculture field for at least 10 years themselves. I think for them, it also changed the perspective of what food production can be and how it could be just and how it doesn't have to be exploitive. Because they are also immigrants, and that was kind of more of the side of agriculture that they got to see as opposed to the one I'm in right now. My identity plays a huge role in my job here. I think it contributes a lot to the success we've been able to have in this past year with the involvement and support of our community, as well as just the empowerment of youth, because we are in Willimantic. Most of our youth are youth of color, also Spanish speaking, and so that's a big barrier to actually include community voices if you don't have someone who can actually communicate back with the youth. My identity as a first-generation immigrant and women play a big role because I always keep in mind those folks who don't have the biggest say in their food system, who haven't been able to really speak up for themselves because they've been shut down too many times. I grew up with my parents who were farmers, but they were more in an exploitative role, and so I see what I don't want the agriculture system to be, and therefore I'm very careful of what I do here and what I do want it to be. Sometimes I'll be working with my youth and I'll be in a hot summer day and I'll think we can get through this, we could just work through it, but then I think we can take a break. There's no reason why we should continue to work. The food is still gonna get there. If we were to be even a day late with our food, our community members would understand. And so there is really no reason to be exploitive. And even sometimes it might seem like I'm being too nice, or people might think I'm being a pushover. But I think it's important to let our youth feel empowered and feel privileged, that they would go to another job site and they would be like, hey, I need a break right now, or I'm gonna take a break right now, whether you want it or not, because that's what this food system should really look like. When people are tired or when they want to do something different, they should feel empowered enough to do so. I think the main challenge for me was just getting over a lot of imposter syndrome. It felt like I didn't belong here in the food system, or even in like agriculture at first. It was really hard for me to really be like, okay, I am knowledgeable, I can do this. Especially because when I look out for resources, other farmers around me, they don't look like me. They're definitely, like, I don't think I've met many farmers who are Hispanic. And so it was very much like, do I belong here? Is this really my community? Because those aren't the folks I'm seeing, but I realized quickly that it's just those folks haven't been invited to the conversation yet, or they haven't been invited into this space. And I'm hoping to invite more folks so other folks can step up and be like, this is my community, this is the knowledge that I know. Just because a lot of folks don't have those degrees or those papers that say they have that knowledge doesn't mean they don't have it. I'm settling in more, and I'm starting to feel more that this is my space, and I'm claiming it. I think hardest part of my job right now for me is like stepping away and like taking care of myself in general. I really want to like serve as a role model in my community, knowing that there's not that many folks that look like me here in the agriculture system. And so sometimes I get very in my head about it. Being the person who shows people new things or is inviting new community members. But sometimes I know that I have to rest so I can wake up the next day and want to do it again and not burn out. So I think that's been the biggest role. I don't want to let my community down. I don't want to let my youth down. But I've acknowledged that it's also important to rest. My advice for anyone entering the agriculture field or young people would be to connect with anyone you meet, meaning anyone who does have knowledge of agriculture or doesn't, because they'll be helpful regardless. Here, especially in my community garden, anybody, no matter if they have a green thumb or not, is always welcome to come help out doing anything. There's so many things, initiatives, projects, products that came out when folks were going to school together, like whether it be college or high school, what they came up with a small idea and just went for it. I think people get overwhelmed very quickly and think that those things can't happen. It'll take time, but they can happen, and they have happened. So definitely, if you have even just an idea at 14, 18, or 23, just start towards it and you will get there.
My name is Sarah Brush. I am co-owner of Brush Hill Dairy with my husband Texas Moon in Bozrah, Connecticut. We have been milking cows for approximately 27 years now. And I think in about 2010 or 2011, we started growing vegetables to supplement some more income for our family. The piece of land that we're utilizing today belonged to my great-grandfather and great-grandmother. And they bought this farm, I think, in about 1887. I'm the fourth generation. My children are the fifth generation here on the farm. This is the only time I could ever say that being a woman maybe was a bit of a factor in owning this land. What had happened is this farm went through my father's family from male to male to male, and was intended to go to my brother. As we were kids growing up, it was always the intent in the family that my brother would get the farm. And I just really always just clung to the land, as I think everybody in our family really does. And when my father died totally unexpectedly, he didn't have a will, which was a really scary time. But fortunately, we were very, very blessed, and my brother and sisters and myself, we signed everything over to my mother, and my mother very generously gifted the farm to us with the blessing of my brother and sisters. So that way, you know, it was still able to stay in the family and stay whole. I never felt I had an entrepreneurial spirit. I always thought, oh no, if I had to work for myself, I'm just gonna flop on my face. It's not gonna work. We started small. We started with the milk, and we slowly built. And I learned so much along the way. You know, even just from, selling our first half gallon of raw milk to doing a CSA, doing a farmer's market. The one thing that really brought me back to the farm full time was when I had my third child. For many, many years, I helped my husband milk cows and help build our dairy herd. And some of it I was working a part-time job at Agway. And then when my third child was born, I quit doing that and I came home to work exclusively on the farm. It just did not pay to go back to work. So we toughed it out, and we're really broke for many years. And my husband, our herd had grown probably to close to the 40 cows that we're milking now. And it's just 40 cows is a lot for one person. So, you know, I was home with the children and every day pack up the kids, go to the barn, and, you know, just I shouldn't say supported him, because we were very much a part of the farm too. But it brought our teamwork, our partnership, probably full circle. The one product that we really started with that was the beginning of our on-farm sales, they call value-added products, was raw cow's milk. The dairy industry isn't the most lucrative industry, so there was always a bit of a money shortage, and I was home with 3 kids and just looking for a little bit of added income. So we started selling raw milk on the side, and gee, once you're selling raw milk, well, let's get let's get a dozen hens and we'll start selling some eggs too. So the next thing you know, you're selling eggs, and then, well, put in a garden, here's some summer squash and some beans. And slowly but surely, we built from not only selling raw milk and vegetables, but we've added in beef, we've added in pork, and we've added in chicken. And we also buy in a few other products from local farmers or local artisans to add to our farm stand. The unexpected tasks, and probably the least favorite tasks, is how much paperwork and business end of the work needs to be done to the point where it can be very aggravating and frustrating. You know, it's one thing to grow everything out in the field and get it growing and it's productive, but then you've got to harvest it, you've got to clean it, you've got to process it, package it, whatever you're doing to get it to the customer. That can take a lot more time. When we first started milking cows, we were very small scale conventional. Our cows were confined in a freestall barn with just a very small exercise area. And we talked about selling raw milk, and I was doing some research on raw milk, and the more that I read on raw milk, the more I read that people want their cows grazed. People want their cows out on grass. They want them eating a natural diet. They want them out moving through the fields. And, you know, I was talking to my husband, and he's, you know, kind of, I don't know, hemming and hawing about it. And then we got involved with the NRCS, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, part of the USDA, and they do a lot of grant work. And one thing that we did was we went down there and we talked to them, and they actually financed some high tensile electric fencing so that we could put our cows out on rotational grazing. And this is one of those things that you look at and you think, this just makes perfectly good sense. This is where I want to see my cows. You know, this is natural. This is what nature intended. You know, to get the cows out on the grass, let them lay in the grass, poop in the grass, eat the grass, you know. And so we did a setup with them, and haven't turned back, and have just become more sustainable minded as we keep going. A lot of people stop and look at us and they go, wow, you guys, you do so much. And I say, my husband and I, you know, we are, you know, the owners of the farm, but we could not be where we are without our children. Our children have, since the day they were born, they've been either in a pouch or in a backpack or in a stroller, and they have been on the farm, and they have just, they've grown up literally in the field and in the barn. I would not have traded the time home with my kids for all the money in the world. I firmly believe that, you know, you can really get by on on a lower income, but the joy that you have of raising your children and being with your children and working with your children, and that's really what we did. Is we, you know, we worked with our children. Our second daughter, Dixie, is 21, and Dixie is just such a powerhouse, and she's always kind of researching things and coming up with ideas, and if I miss something, she's got it. You know, sometimes she misses things and I got it. I like to think it's a pretty good balance. Her heart and soul is in this. This is just really what she loves to do. Advice for young people entering in, you know, like I said, I didn't think I had much of an entrepreneurial spirit. I thought I would, boy, just try. Start small, choose one like little niche crop, garlic, or a bed of strawberries, and don't be afraid to set it out on the roadside, and or you know, contact, you know, say you have a small vegetable garden and you're thinking, well, maybe I'll start a CSA. Contact 5 family members, contact 5 friends, and say, listen, this is what I got going on. Starting small is always the best way. Start small, master small, and then grow from there.
I'm Dixie from Brush Hill Dairy in Bozrah. My parents own the farm, so I'm their daughter. So we produce a variety of vegetables, raw cow's milk, we wholesale milk to Aramark, and we do a bunch of meats that we retail on our farm, and we do some farmers markets. So I grew up on my family's farm. When I was young, we were mostly doing dairy, and then as I was growing up, we transitioned into vegetables, which is now our main source of income. So I worked for the farm throughout school, and as soon as I graduated high school, I went full-time, and I've been here ever since. So this has been 4 years since I graduated high school. I studied agriculture in high school. I was in the FFA program, which I was very active in. I did a lot of CDEs, and I used this farm as my SAE project. I went into high school with a lot of previous experience in agriculture, so I don't think I got as much out of the program as other kids did, because I already knew how to put a milking machine on a cow. That class was a little boring, but that's okay. It was great to meet a lot of people in the industry and people who worked at nearby farms who I didn't know as well. When I found out I had the opportunity to take a few online classes and graduate high school a year early, I jumped right on it. Saving myself a year of being in high school was the best decision I've ever made. I do not regret graduating early at all. Throughout my whole life, I've really known that I've wanted to farm full-time. School really wasn't my thing. Nothing really grabbed my attention, and I always enjoyed coming home, working with the cows, going out to the vegetables. I've always loved being outside, and this has been my whole life. My main job is growing vegetables. I do some of everything at some point. I plant, pick, weed, everything, any spraying. I do all of our fertilizing. I do go to the Bozrah farmers market, so I take care of that one all summer, and occasionally I retail in the farm stands. Over the winter, I help with our cow herd, so I'm our breeder. I'm the only person who AIs for us, and I do assist with births, with difficult births if we have a cow having problems, and I do feed calves over the winter. We produce a variety of vegetable crops, a lot of leafy greens over the winter, a lot of carrots, a lot of root vegetables. Over the summer we do tomatoes, summer squash, zucchini, cucumbers, tons of lettuce throughout the summer. One of our main reasons for going for the CSA was because when we first started, we were only doing one farmer's market on a Friday night. And since a lot of vegetables have to be picked every day, every other day, it was really hard for us to store vegetables and hold on to them for possibly 6 days. And some of our customers aren't really a fan of that. We aim to produce the freshest produce we can. We don't feel comfortable holding on to things. So our first CSA was on a Monday, and we had a Friday farmers market. So the most we'd be holding something was maybe 4 days, usually less than 3. So our main goal was to get the freshest food we could to our customers with still allowing us to pick regularly. One of the benefits of the CSA was also a big boost of income early in the season. At that point, we weren't growing vegetables year-round, and income was really tight over the winter months. It's hard to say how many hours I put in, because some things are work that needs to be done, and then whenever we have extra time, there's always new things I want to try. This is really my hobby too, so I'm always out there planting something that might fail if we have some extra seeds. I'm the crazy person out there trying to plant lettuce in February when every growing condition says it's not going to work, but I'm trying it. So over the summer we work crazy hours, long days. Over the winter when it slows down, I'm still causing trouble here. I'm looking for things to do, playing with cows, doing anything I can with vegetables. My family has really been my strongest support system. My parents taught me and my siblings how to farm since we were old enough to walk, since we were old enough to drag us outside. They've really taught us everything we know, and they've really pushed us to try new things. They've always supported us. If there's a new vegetable we want to grow, if there's a different market we want to try, they always go for it. We'll help you, we'll support you. I do enjoy working closely with my family. Some days it's great, some days you want to kill each other. It puts a whole new level to things because there's a lot of laughing, a lot of joking, a lot of fights, there's a lot of disagreements. But it really works because all of us have grown up on the farm and been here throughout our lifetime. So we're also very familiar with this farm's way of doing things, and we know how to work together. We always know what the other person's thinking. It's really easy to communicate. There's never really any barriers.
What was it like growing up on the farm?
It was fun. It was quite an experience. You learn a lot of things that other kids aren't exposed to, and sometimes in school you say things you're not supposed to, but it is definitely a great experience, and I wish more kids had that opportunity to really view the facts of life and learn how food is produced and really have an understanding of life and death and growth and food production. Our community has been really supportive of our farm, especially through the Bozrah Farmers Market, which is where we got our start. Wholesaling directly to the community, they were right on us. A lot of people have known our family. We've been here my great-great-grandfather was here in 1887, so they know the family line, they know everybody. And once we started that farmers market, they were immediately buying from us, supporting us, providing us with so much positivity. And then once we started our farm stand, it was amazing how many customers came from that farmer's market up here to support us. So my philosophy is really to keep the farm sustainable, benefit our community while also benefiting the land and our crops and our animals. When we are working with the livestock, they are very important to us. So even though we're really trying to get them to produce and harvest as much as we can off of them, we want them happy and healthy throughout their life cycle. So our goal is really to build a small, sustainable farm that's still productive and profitable, but everyone benefits from it. My long-term goals really are to stay with the farm. This has been my whole life. I do want to stay on a small scale, but there's different avenues we've really talked about taking. Greenhouse growing is really working for us. High tunnels, protected cover. Growing tomatoes in protected cover has been a great avenue for us, something that's really worked out. So far this has been our best year ever producing high tunnel tomatoes. We've had such great marketable yields, flawless fruit, very few blemishes, which we're really excited about. So that's definitely a route we're looking to go to. We have plans to keep improving those high tunnels. We're hoping to add heat to one to hopefully get crops earlier in the season. I don't think my identity as a woman has really affected my profession. There's a huge push right now for women in agriculture. I think people are really starting to learn that women are good at nurturing not only babies, but also crops, livestock. They're really good at caring for things, and they put that extra level in. There's not really as much need for physical labor as there used to be. There's new equipment and new ways of doing things have really decreased the need for physical strength. So as much as you do need to be physically active, there's still a lot you can do without being able to lift 200 pounds. It's, you know, even pulling calves, they say 200-pound men, but it's, you know, we can use a calf jack. Me and my sister have pulled calves before. You don't need to be massive, you don't need to be strong. You can still do it, and women really succeed at caring for animals, caring for plants, really noticing the fine details and seeing how their health is. I definitely think agriculture and raising crops, raising livestock is something that both men and women can be very successful at. I think the best part about farming is there's always work that needs to be done. Even if you don't want to do it, you're tired, you're exhausted, the plants still need to be watered, the cows still need to be fed, they still need to be milked. There's always jobs that need to be done, and that kind of forces you to keep going even when you're down and out. And then for me, it always seems once you're out working, it gets easier. You settle right into it. My best advice for someone looking to go into agriculture is just go for it. There's so many people that look at all the hardships. What happens if the crop fails? What happens if the weather beats on you? How am I going to swing it financially? And right after I got out of high school, there were so many people that told me, go to college, find a different profession, make a good source of income, and do this when you retire. And it's, you sit there and look at these retired people, and they're old, their bodies are worn down. What I'm doing now is not something you can do as a retired person, and I want to build everything to a point where I'm happy while I'm young and still physically able to do this. So my best advice is just go on it, go for it, take the chance, plant the crops, buy the cows, you know, just watch your spending and keep trying. My main reason for farming is for the enjoyment of it. I do very much love what I do. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I don't think I'd ever be happy.
I farm for the past, I farm for the present, and I farm for the future. I feel like farming honors my family members that have come before me, who have worked to protect this land, who loved this land. I'd like to think that if the past family members who are, you know, deceased, I'd like to think that if they could see what we're doing now, that they would just be so tickled. You know, my father was here for a few years when we had first gotten started, and I think that he was just so pleased with the way things were going. But I think if he could have seen, you know, the farm stand and my son raising pigs and Dixie out in the field working her tail off, and April just coming back and helping, and I think he would have just been so pleased, you know, to know that we kept it together. And I farm for the future, because I think if I had a great-grandchild who was farming this, if I knew I had a great-grandchild who could farm this land someday, that would make my life complete. That would just, you know, bring it full circle for me personally. And that's something that you'll never know, but it's something that you can just, you know, wish for and hope for. So.
I farm for my community, for the success of my community. Food is a really important part of anybody's life, and I think in general having power over how your food is grown, how you get it, who grows it, everything behind it has a huge impact for ourselves, but also our planet. A lot of the conversations I've been having with my youth lately is how to take care of our resources and also watch our footprint that we're leaving here. Our community includes our land and our resources as well.
I farm to feed my community. I also farm selfishly because I feel great. It's good for my body and my heart, and I feel full and fulfilled when I farm. I have had experiences that I thought maybe farming wasn't for me, but then taking myself away from that and finding jobs off farm, I realized that that wasn't the case. There's just better situations than others. And I just keep coming back to farming. I think women are the future of farming, honestly. So if anyone can do it, we can.